Welcome to the studio at That Nerd Show. I am Marcus Blake, and we are speaking with writer and director Tracie Laymon today for her film, Bob Trevino Likes It. Tracie, welcome. It's a pleasure, as always, to get to interview you and talk film. And I have to say, I've been waiting to do this interview for about a year since the film hit the film festival circuit. So here we are, finally out in theaters. Your first feature, and we're going to dive right into this film. And I also want to say congratulations, having interviewed you for short films and getting to this point. If I can use a baseball reference, it's like getting to the show and getting to interview you on that level now with a feature. So
Okay. Thank you, Marcus. You've been there along the way, and thanks for supporting me as a short film filmmaker and now
absolutely.
a feature filmmaker. Yeah.
All right, so Bob Trevino Likes It. This is actually based on a true story. This is your personal story. Um, Tell us a little bit about the actual story that led to the inspiration of this film.
Yeah, I mean, it's more inspired by, but it basically, I experienced something very similar where my dad wouldn't email me back, wouldn't call me back, so I put his name into Facebook, thinking maybe he'll respond to me that way, and he was, I was a people pleaser. Now I'm a recovering people pleaser. Then I was a straight up people pleaser back then. And so I wanted to fix it. So I put his name into Facebook, thought, I'll find him that way, and woke up to a notification from another man with his name. I didn't realize. I thought it was my dad for a split second. I thought, okay, my dad accepted my friend request. My dad likes something of mine. He's back. We're okay. We're gonna be okay. And then I looked and it wasn't him. I had friended another man with his name accidentally, and that man just, that stranger on the internet just proceeded to be kind to me. And he had access to my heart because of his name, and he had no idea what I was going through on the other side.
Right.
And so for quite some time, he was just kind, and his comments and likes and support on the internet really did help me heal and change my life in a way that I didn't really know how else to share other than making this film.
Yeah, I do you feel like that the best stories we tell are always the most personal?
I think so, because they say, especially for your first feature, they say write what you know, and write something really personal. And I had tried other things that weren't this personal, and they never really got off the ground. And then, they also say write through your scars, not your wounds.
Yeah,
And I think I couldn't have written this even 6 months earlier than I did. It was aligning with where I was at with like my healing journey.
sure.
The film is very vulnerable and deals with healing. And if I'd written it earlier, I couldn't have been objective about any of it. So I think, yeah, I definitely do think, and I finally had the courage to go all the way. Like in Gattaca, like Gattaca, I didn't save anything for the swim back here.
Well, you talk about timing of writing this and releasing this, the perfect confluence of, where your life is and just again the timing. I also think it's the timing of how we deal with social media now.
Yeah.
Political cycles, everybody's angry, and here you have a story that's inspirational that yes, we can connect with strangers in a good way that will change our lives.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And
uh,
and I'm not saying there aren't dangers on the internet.
no, no, no,
But-
absolutely.
Yeah. But at the same time, if we just assume that everybody's bad and this is just a dumping ground for our anger, then
Right,
then we've lost here, because that's not the truth. That I'm living proof that there is another way, and that there are other
right.
people here. You
Do
know.
you feel like where this film coming out now in the film festival circuit last year that if it had come out years before, it would it would have the impact or that it's had or not?
I do. I think people would have liked it. And a lot of people, especially with similar situations to what my character's going through, would have really responded, or anybody that felt like they didn't belong in some way.
Right.
Um, but I think it's definitely heightened by this kind of vacuum that we still have from the pandemic. We
Yeah.
still have this like void and this isolation from that pain of being, and then the divisive kind of nature of the country. And really the world, because I did get to travel abroad with this film as well, and it's not just an American thing. This is kind of a universal thing. So yeah, I do think there's something in the zeitgeist right now,
Right.
with people needing to know, need to have a little light, a little hope, but not toxically positive. This film is not it's not like we're aware of the darkness. We're just choosing them.
Right.
Yeah.
This isn't the Hallmark Channel version of happiness where everything is fake. This is not
Yeah, exactly.
that.
Exactly.
So I want to get into casting. Both of us have grown up with John's films. I love a pyromaniac story. I've loved him as a Navy SEAL in Executive Decision. And it's funny to look at him now as kind of being that elderly character later in life, but you seem to have found this perfect cast to really embody these characters. Even French Stewart to a point which he is so awful in the film, and I can't see him in any way being awful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, totally.
how did you find everybody?
Well, first, it's funny because I think John Leguizamo, even when he's 100 years old, will never be elderly because he has so much energy. You know, his spirit is like I'm like, what is going on? Like he's like 20 years old, you know, and his beautiful, beautiful energy and spirit. I think so. First, French Stewart was actually on before John because his wife. I mean, I was interested in him. I didn't get to go out to him until I put the package together, but I his wife is in my writing group
Oh,
and
okay.
I knew her and I love them and even I had an idea of what French Stewart does. I mean even I was affected by that
Yeah.
box, right? And so when she said French is going to come read pages tonight if anybody has something for him to read, and I was like, oh, that's nice. I love French. What do I
Right.
have for French Stewart? Like I was literally like, I don't know, and so it was kind of a happy accident that I got to see him read for this, and I'm all about being wrong,
Yeah.
if I see someone in a box and they show me that they are not that, oh my God, thank you. I don't want to put you in a box. I don't want to put anybody in a box. Um, I'd
Right.
seen him on stage. He is incredible. He has been able to do a lot of drama and really nuanced work on stage. He's obviously very funny and he's all
Yeah.
his TV work and he jokes about TV jail and things like that. Um, it's time for us to see him in the full range on in film and TV, the full range of what he's obviously
Well,
capable of.
that's part of the magic of Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah.
That's still a great, nearly 30 years later, still a great show to go back and watch. And I rewatched that during the pandemic, which was
Yeah.
funny. But yeah, you don't really see him doing, in a mean role or this awful person, um, because of the boxes you're talking about, which it was great to see him. It's like, wow, I didn't know he could do that. And wow, I don't really want to see him that. Because again, his character is so awful. I, I'm watching the film and I'm like, I'm just waiting for a scene. Can someone just punch this guy? I just don't feel like it needs to be punched.
Well, that was one of the headers of one of the reviews. It said, Bob Trevino likes it'll make you want to punch French Stewart in the face. Like, oh Lord, like
I mean, well, that's a great compliment for an actor too. Yes, I can make you hate me.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, he's just wonderful, and he's he's gonna get. I hope there's a lot of buzz around him when this comes out. He
Yeah.
deserves it. And one of the my other favorite podcast reviews said, besides yours, said that the last plot twist is in the credits when you see that was French Stewart.
Yeah, very much so. Um, Barbie Ferreri,
Barbie Ferrer, yeah, yeah.
Ferrer, sorry, excuse me.
No
I'm
worries.
terrible with names. She was fantastic in this film, and I did not know much about her until I watched this. Um, when did you know that she was Lily?
I when I was mainly in the first few go rounds when I was writing and I was just picturing myself because that's kind of how I write,
Right.
And then when it came time to cast, I was looking for the right heart, really, and
Yeah.
it didn't, it's not a documentary. It's the names are changed. It's a work of art, it's
Yeah.
not a biopic or something. So she didn't need to look anything like me or anything. I just like who has this vulnerability it was really important to me that Lily be a survivor, and that she's
Yeah.
just not a doormat. She's a
Right.
survivor. And so her kindness is a strength, not a weakness. And so I needed to find a human being that was strong like that understood that you sometimes you have to carve out space in the world. Sometimes the world doesn't roll out a red carpet for you when you're born and say, here you go. But and Barbie is a powerhouse, and she's self-made. She is a beautiful human being. And so I usually don't get the kind of vulnerability and the wit and the charm and the ability to have childlike awe, all of these things
Right.
that Barbie was able to do. I had a really hard time finding that in anybody but her. She's the one. And so I knew, and I just had to put it together to go out to her.
Right. Well, I mean, when you're a director, you often picture certain people in roles,
Yeah.
and then and then somebody else comes along.
Yeah.
I feel like every director is, hit that and be like, I want somebody to do this. There's a great story about, Tom Hanks almost being Jerry Maguire, and I can never see him as Jerry
Wow.
Maguire.
Wow. What a different movie that would have
Yeah,
been.
I know exactly, exactly. But Tom Cruise is perfect for that, you
Mhm.
know. Um, so yeah, I looked at her, I was like, wow, that, and it made me want to go back and see what else that she had done.
Yeah,
You know,
it's very different. This is very different. But that was what was so exciting for me, because I could see these nuances in Euphoria. You could see she had an open heart. The
yeah,
scenes are pretty edgy, obviously, in Euphoria is very different than Bob Trevino. But the heart is there in her performance, and the vulnerability, and I mean, wearing a heart on her sleeve and then covering, and the strength in the vulnerability, and the humanity
yeah,
of Kat Hernandez, her character on Euphoria. I mean, that she Barbie has such humanity, and you don't always have that. Like some actors just she's everybody. I feel like she's the hero we all really need. She's a
yeah.
classically beautiful human being who can have great range. I feel like everybody should cast Barbie in everything. Every
So
role forever, Barbie.
you've worked with a lot of wonderful actors, short films and everything, but getting to work with everybody, that in this film, it's a whole new ball game for you.
Yeah.
What's that? How is that experience, for actors that have been around since our childhood
Yeah.
to where you were with doing short films?
Well, yeah, I think, I remember when I worked with Elaine Hendricks on one of my
Yeah,
shorts, I was so excited, because I grew up with her from The Parent Trap and everything.
right.
And so that I'd had a little bit of that before. But yeah, this was, working with John Leguizamo was something that was just a dream come true. I mean, he's an icon and a veteran. And the most exciting thing for me was that he proved to be an absolutely incredible human being. And
Yeah,
that's really important to me. Even now when I'm looking at my next projects, I'm trying to call around, and be like, hey, is this person nice to cast and crew? Hey, did they, with how are they when you interviewed them? Were they kind? Because my films have a lot of heart. And can you imagine what would have happened if we had a Bob Trevino that didn't have a good heart? Like the movie
right.
would completely fall apart.
Yeah,
So it was just too important to me. And like it's just like with Barbie, where you don't usually get all those things in one person. you don't usually get all those things that you get with John. You don't usually get, oh, or I haven't yet. I hope to find, this with
Right.
all my collaborators, but they're a legend. They're kind.
Right.
I mean, it just goes on, and you're like, oh, this person really is one of a kind.
Well,
There's not,
you have to make it fun going to work too. Like I'm excited
yeah,
to go and film today, no matter how hard it's, going to be,
yeah,
type of thing.
absolutely.
You don't want to have to deal with Christian Bale going off on us and getting
Yeah, yeah.
and
And
it
it
does,
and, and it doesn't mean that if something is wrong, they're not going to tell you. I'm not saying that they
right,
along with everything, it was like they're across the board, our cast got where they are because they are strong and
right.
they're authentic, and that was really important to me. And so, if something they bumped on something that I wanted to hear what they had to say, we want to have a conversation. It wasn't just like they were like, oh, okay, everything's great, and if we're running late and they're hot or something, they're gonna say, hey, let's move along.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's not just I just want to be clear that it's that the kindness comes in many forms and
Right. I agree with you.
yeah.
Now, I do have one little minor complaint. I was not warned that I was going to need tissues. I didn't really read. Well, I mean, I had heard great things and um, from other critics that had seen it during the film festival circuit and stuff, but nobody really kind of warned you you're going to need these. And I watched it late at night. It was like, okay, it had been dealing with a lot that day. It's like, okay, I should have been warned, but no, in a good way. It was at the time that I watched our screener, it was like, yeah, I kind of needed this too. So with that said, have you dealing with the emotional aspects of the movie? Have you given fair warning that, this is going to tug at your heart, that you may need tissues and how to deal with it?
Well, there's been some people on TikTok that have been letting people know that for me.
Okay. All right.
They're
All right.
saying they're saying bring your tissues, bring your tissues. You know this is kind of mean of me, but in the beginning, I usually when I enter the movie, I say have fun or something like that because if I say bring tissues, then they're like, well, I'm not gonna cry, not me. You tell me to bring tissues. I'm not gonna my walls. And so I feel a little sneaky in that way, but the word is getting out about
Right.
that people are calling it a tear jerker and things like that. And that wasn't the intention was just to be emotionally true.
Right.
I wasn't trying to be manipulative or anything, but I think that I was so vulnerable and that our casting was so open that that's what people were responding to. I think
Yeah.
if they had had one false note, people probably would have their guard up, but we were also open.
Right.
So, and I'm finding that this is, like I said, really is a universal experience, like
Right.
maybe you didn't go through exactly what through Lily went through, but you've gone through something along those
Yeah,
lines.
I
So,
agree. So what's the best compliment you've gotten so far? Not from critics or reviews or anything like that, just somebody coming up to you in the last
um, I think, as a teenager, I don't want to cry, but the teenager who said, she was in Minneapolis and she said, I don't have friends I can talk to about this kind of thing. So thank you for making this movie.
Right.
And there's been things like that. There was a woman in Charlottesville who was probably in her 60s and really well put together and beautiful, human being.
Okay.
And she was choking back tears. She said, I needed this movie. And, she must have had a dad like that, I think. But it was happy tears. They cry while they're smiling. And
Yeah.
that's what's so beautiful is I never want to bring anybody down. I'm not trying to make a downer, but like if it can be cathartic, if it can help people heal,
Sure.
I mean, I hear a lot about people who've been through similar things that this movie helped them heal in ways that they weren't able to find other ways, and
Great.
that's great. If my healing can help others.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to work in my last two questions. These are my filmmaker questions, and I'm sure we've talked about it before, but I want it official for this interview.
Uh,
The film that made you want to be a filmmaker. What
well,
one film?
so I worked at a video store and I got my hands on an underground copy of Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know this. Still, I feel and I was blown away by it because I didn't come from money. I didn't have a family in the business or anything like that. And so I was like, how am I ever going to afford filmmaking is so expensive. It's for other people. Like it's
Right.
not for people like me. But then when I saw Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story, I was like, this is the perfect way for this film to, I know there were rights issues and everything, obviously. So
Sure.
that aside, I was pretty young. I didn't know. But I was like, this is the perfect way for this story to be told. And as long as you tell it with care, it doesn't matter if you have $10 or $10 million
Right.
or $100 million. You can find a way to tell your story. And I just must have watched that over and over and over. It was told Barbie dolls and everything and anorexia. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is the perfect way for this film to be told. And actually, if you'd had more money, it wouldn't necessarily have made it any better. And I feel that way about Bob Trevino. I feel like if
Yeah.
we'd had 10 times the budget, it wouldn't necessarily, I mean, it would have been a little more helpful, I'll tell you. But but it wouldn't necessarily have been better, you know?
Right.
So I learned that maybe the barrier for entry was not outside my scope, you know?
Okay. All right. Wow. That's like a deep dive on a film right there.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I like to throw you a couple of curveballs and change up the questions a little bit since we've interviewed you so much. So I'm just going to simply ask, when it comes to superheroes or a great nerd character that you can identify with, the one that you feel like is you, who
Oh
would
my God. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm not as much as of a genre person, you know?
True. True.
So give me just a second here. I mean, well, it's not this is not going to answer your question, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So because I don't know who I identify with in this is horrible. I like superheroes. I just maybe I don't see myself as one yet. But I watched Amelie on the plane on the way here,
Okay.
and that's magical realism, and I could really relate to her, you
I
know?
absolutely. That's a great reference. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
of this question is just it's just anything.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, I was like, wow, I think I was really inspired by Amelie. I saw it really young and that's got
Right.
I just love the breaking the wall and her imagination and the way that she kind of sees the world. And I feel like I kind of do that. Like she's aware of darkness too, but she just puts on these
I
color glasses and
I feel like superpowers come in all shapes and sizes and in
yeah,
many different forms. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to fly or, you can create fire or anything like that. Magical realism is very much a superpower because it can changing your reality to how you perceive the world is a power,
yeah,
especially if you do
absolutely.
it for good. So that's a true filmmaker's reference right there. And people are going to be like, what is she talking about?
Yeah, what world, what is this?
Is this a French superhero?
Kind of. One other thing is I recently watched, well, not recently, it was a couple of years ago when I was obviously doing my homework on John Leguizamo. I watched the series The Power, and
Yes.
I fell in love with it. I think it's a brilliant show. And even though I don't think I would use that power to hurt anyone, I do feel like tapping into that on this festival run as I go out. I'm an introvert, so when I get up there on the stage, I'm like, okay, here we go. Here we go. And I feel like I kind of put that shield on myself because the cause is so much greater than my
Right.
fear, and I'm no longer afraid of things that I was groomed to be afraid of. And
Right.
so I just really appreciate that show. There's a monologue in the show that's just incredible. That's done by the young woman from what is she? I can't remember her name, but she's incredible. Anyway, I can relate to the power, and I think that's a little more along your lines.
Nice. Nice. That's a great answer too.
Yeah.
Well, our time has run out. Well, you've got more press to do. It's opening day, and I'm just glad that I could get fit in and finally get to interview you about this film. And it was truly wonderful. I can't wait for other critics to see it and us to talk about it. And like I messaged you before, this is just the beginning. Award seasons and months down the road, and I have no doubt that this film's going to be in talks during that season. So.
Thank you, Marcus.